Hello everyone and welcome back to another video, and I'm very excited to be sharing this project with you. It is a GitHub users dashboard which has authentication, so you can sign in or you can sign up if you don't have an account, and it is powered by Clerk Authentication, and we're going to get into this in a moment. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign in, and if you don't have an account, you can go ahead into the sign up page right here, and it is going to redirect you into the sign up page. And I have enabled login with GitHub. So if you have a GitHub account, then of course you can just click on this button to say continue with GitHub. And the first time that you're going to be logging in with GitHub, it's going to take you into the GitHub authorization page so that you can authorize the application. But since I've already tested it out, then it's just going to redirect me into the application. And once we land into the application, then this is what it looks like on the landing page of the application, the dashboard page. So on the dashboard, we have a list of repositories, which is using the GitHub users API. So we are fetching a list of repositories from a certain user. In this case, it is only me, and it shows me my 10 latest repositories. So the ones that I have updated latest, and it only shows the public repositories. So I have some private repositories in between here, but it is only giving me the private repositories. And when I click on a repository here, then it shows the more details about the repository on the right side. And we also have the search users page right here. So if I go into the search users page, by default, I am searching for Brad Traversy, but you can go ahead and search for any other users such as Cassidy Williams, so Cassidy. And when you search by their username, then once again, it shows you their 10 latest repositories, which if you want to get more information about, you can just click on a certain repository and then it's going to show you right here. And as you can see that this container on the right is scrolling with us, just so that you don't have to keep on scrolling back to the top when you want to get a view of what the repository is about. So it is quite a nice application, and I have built it using NextJs and Tailwind CSS as well as ShadCN for these buttons and some of the styles that we're going to be using. Now, when you look on the top right, we have an image here. Now, this image is going to be dependent on your current GitHub repository, the current profile that you have on your GitHub repository. So this is mine currently, and you can see that when I click on it, then it gives me my name as well as the username from my GitHub, because I signed in using GitHub. And then if I click on manage account, then it's going to take me, it's going to pop up a model here. But what I want to do in the application is I want to create a separate page for this particular model, and I'm going to call it user profile so that it appears on the bottom right here. So that if you want to go into your user profile, you can just click on the button and then it's just going to show you this. And then once I sign out, and you know what, before I sign out, actually, I can navigate back into the home page. So if I navigate back into the home page, you can see that the buttons now no longer say sign up or sign in. It just says dashboard because I am already logged in. And then if I go back to my dashboard and then I go ahead and say sign out, then it's going to redirect me back to my home page. And then we have the buttons that says sign up and sign in. And we're going to be using all this using Clerk. Now, Clerk is a comprehensive user management platform, and it allows us to build a very scalable authentication experience for our users with very minimal struggle. So what it does is once we install it, once we integrate it, then we're going to get access to the sign-in component, the sign-up component, which are going to be our sign-in and sign-up pages. And then the user button is what we are going to be seeing on the top right. So let me go back inside, let me sign in. And the user button is going to be this one right here. And then we also get access to the user profile, and the user profile is basically this manage your account page. So the user profile is going to be basically this. So we're going to be adding that in as well. So you can go into clerk.com, and if you're not signed in or if you don't have an account with them, then you're going to create an account. You can see that I'm already signed in because the button says sign out, and I can go ahead and visit my dashboard. Now, if I go into my dashboard, you will notice that I have a couple of applications, and let this just load in. So there we go. So I have a couple of applications, but I'm going to create a new application just to show you how easy it is to do that. and all of them are currently on the free tier, so we have nothing to worry about because it gives us a generous offer of about 10,000 monthly active users, if I remember correctly. So you can use it to test it out, to test out things if you want, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to leave this page open for now, and the link is dashboard.clerk.com. And as we begin, I just want to mention that this application is similar to one that I built 2 years ago, and I built it in React, and this is how it looks. And you can get the link in my YouTube channel, or you can click the pop-up banner that appears on the top right about now, and then you're going to get access if you want to see this, how we built this application 2 years ago. And I think we are ready to begin. We are now ready to begin. We're going to be using this API, and we're going to talk about it in a few. But what I want to do now is I want to navigate into Visual Studio Code, and then I want to shut this down. So once I shut it down, I'm going to open up my terminal, and then inside my terminal, I'm going to say cd into my desktop, and then into a folder that is called YT videos. And then inside here, I'm going to say npx create, not React, but create next-app at latest. And then I'm going to call it gh users-yt. So GitHub users YT, YouTube. And then I'm going to add the -- tailwind flag so that it also installs tailwind CSS for us. So we don't want to use TypeScript. We want ESLint. We don't want the source directory. We want the app router. We want the default alias, so no. And then I'm going to let this run. And then once it finishes running, then we are going to continue. And there we go. So now that it is finished, I'm going to say code gh-users-yt, which is going to open up an instance of Visual Studio Code into the newly created folder. So this is in post, and I just want to show you that the time that I've been recording is 2 hours and 31 minutes. Now, obviously, this is not going to be the full length of the video because I took some pauses in between. But that means the current time is 11:53. So I've been recording since 9 p.m. And towards the end of the video, I do get a bit tired, but I hope you can give me a bit of leeway and you can be a bit understandable towards the current situation. But all in all, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you like it. And if you do, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And let's begin. And this is what we're going to have for our application. So I'm going to close this terminal, and then I'm also going to close this instance because it was only for demonstration. And then I'm going to maximize this, and then we can begin to set up everything. So the first thing that I'm going to do is Control J to open up my terminal. And then what I want to do is I want to go into the ShadCN website. So ShadCN UI. I want to go into their website, and we're going to be using this for only two things, which is the button and then the card component, which we are going to see in action. But what I want to do is I just want to get it installed in my workspace. So I'm going to say get started, and then inside get started, I'm going to go inside my installation here, and then we're using NextJs. So I'm going to click on NextJs, and this is the command to create a new NextJs application. We're using TypeScript. If you add this flag, then you're going to install TypeScript as well. But we're not using TypeScript, so I did not add this in. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and install ShadCN, right? So this is the command right here. So npx ShadCN UI at latest init. So let me just go ahead and copy, and I'm using npm. So copy, and then back inside here, I'm going to paste it in, and then just let it run. And then it's going to ask us a couple of questions depending on the version of ShadCN that you're using. So as you can see, so I just want to use the default style. The color scheme that I want to use is slate, and then we are using CSS variable, so that's okay. And depending on the version, you can have more questions or less questions. I have experienced that, but for now, these are the ones that are being asked. So let this just finish running, and there we go. So we have ShadCN initialized in our application. Now let me go ahead and say this. I'm going to say npm run dev, which is going to open up our server on localhost 3000, and you can just say control click, which is going to open this up on a new tab so that we can begin building this out. And as you can see, this is the default, or rather it is almost the default application that we have by NextJs. Now the reason it looks a bit weird is because we have first installed ShadCN, and if you take a look at the Tailwind config file, you will notice that the styles have been changed, or rather they have been updated. So the styles inside the Tailwind config are what is messing with the default application here. But once you get this running, it's all okay. Now what I want to do is this. I want to go ahead and create an application in my Clerk dashboard so that we can begin to link our application right here, our Next.js, with Clerk authentication. So what I'm going to do is inside my dashboard here, remember the link is dashboard.clerk.com. Once you sign in, I'm going to say add application. And then my application name, I'm just going to say GitHub users. Let me change this to a capital H. And then I want to disable Google because I don't want people to sign in with Google. I want them to sign in using their GitHub. So you just scroll down, find GitHub, and then enable it. So that now we're going to have continued GitHub. Now, of course, if you want to add multiple sign-ins, you can add them. As you can see, it's just going to add them in grid format, as you can see. But we don't need all of those. We just want the GitHub. And then I'm going to say create application. And there we go. So once we create our application, you can see that we are on Next.js. Make sure that you are on Next.js. If you're building in React, you just select React, in Remix, and so on and so forth. So we are in Next.js. What I'm going to do is we're going to copy these two lines. So just hit the copy button here, and notice that they say that you should paste the keys in your env local file. We're not going to paste them inside the env local. We're just going to create a .env file. So just copy that, and then inside your workspace, just create a new file in the root called the .env, and then paste in your publishable key and your secret key, and then save it. And then next, go inside your git ignore, and then we're going to go right around above this, and we're going to say that we want to ignore the .env file as well, so that we don't push our secret keys to GitHub. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And once you save that, you can see that now the .env file is grayed out. Now, once we do that, then we want to go ahead into the Clerk documentation. So you can just click on continue in docs right there, and then you can close this because we are no longer on this page. So once we do that, then we want to begin to integrate this, right? So the first thing that we need to do is install @clerk/nextjs. So right below this, you can just copy this command and make sure that you use the package manager that you were using. I'm on npm, so just copy this and then Ctrl J to open up my terminal. And then I'm going to open up a new terminal here, and then I'm just going to paste it in. So install Clerk Next.js. And then we need to set up our environment keys by copying these two lines, and you can see that we already did that, so we don't need to do it again. And then we need to go ahead and wrap our application inside the Clerk provider. So inside our layout.js file, which is the layout for the entire application, so inside the app folder and then inside the layout.js, all we need to do is just go ahead and grab this and wrap it inside the Clerk provider, which has not yet installed. And then we need to import it. So import Clerk provider as a named import from @clerk/nextjs, and then save that. And then hopefully not yet, it has not yet finished installing, but once it finishes, then it's going to wrap your entire application inside the Clerk provider so that your application is going to have authentication all through. And there we go. And then the next that we need to do is, we have just done this, so we need to go ahead and require authentication. So we need to create a middleware.ts file, and what this is going to do is that it's going to check for our public routes and our protected routes, so that a user who is not signed in cannot access a protected route. So we're just going to copy this, and then once again inside the root of our application, we're going to create a middleware.ts file, so TypeScript, and then paste this in and then save that. Now I want to mention something. If you are using the source folder, the setup for this is just a bit different. So make sure that you go ahead in the documentation, and it should be, can't find it right now, but the setup is a bit different if you're using the source folder. Okay, so just make sure that if you're in the app folder, then the .env file is in the workspace and the middleware.typescript file is also in the workspace. But if you're using the source folder, I think it is the middleware.ts file that is supposed to be inside the source folder. So just make sure that you take note of that. And then now we can go ahead and say the following. We can go ahead and I think we can even test it out, by the way. So let's go back inside our application. It says Clerk provider cannot be found, but we already installed it. So let's reload. And would you look at that? So once we reload, you notice that our application does not go into localhost 3000. It instead goes ahead and shows you the sign up page, right? Now, obviously, you want that when you're on the home page, which is the /, you want to be able to see the home page of your application. Now, in order to change that, what you need to do is go inside your middleware file, and then inside the auth middleware, you can go ahead and pass in public routes. So public routes, and then set this to an array of the routes that you want to be public. In my case, it's only the /. But if you wanted, for example, to have an about us page, then you would also pass in the about us route here, and then create your about us page. So in this case, then the about us would also be a public route. But in my case, I only have one page for the home page, which is the /. So the only public route that I want is the /, and then the rest of them are going to be protected inside the Clerk provider, inside Clerk's authentication. Now, if I go ahead and go back into localhost 3000, then I should be able to see my application. But once again, this is not working. So let's reload that to make sure. So Clerk provider from Clerk NextJs. Did I import that wrongly? Clerk provider. Let me check whether I did that correctly. Should be Clerk provider. I mean, copy, paste. What's the difference? Clerk provider. Paste and paste. And then let's go ahead and there's my application here. Reload. And there we go. So would you look at that? Now we are on the /, then we get our homepage. But if I go into another page such as about us, for example, then we should get the sign up, the Clerk sign-in page. Okay, so that is working correctly. Now, one thing that I do want to do is I want to create a custom sign-up page, because I don't want that the users are going to be redirected into this link, right? I don't want that. So I want to go ahead and create a custom sign-in and sign-up page. And the way you do that in Clerk is you go ahead into your app folder where you want your routes to be, and then you're going to create a sign-in page. So sign in, and then inside the sign-in page, you're going to create another folder which is going to be housed in square brackets. So two of them, so 1, 2, 1, 2. And then you're going to spread the sign-in, and then inside this folder, you're going to create a new file called page.js or JSX or TSX, depending on what you're working with. And then inside here, you're going to say import sign in from @Clerk NextJS. And then I'm going to say export default function page, and then and then we're going to return the sign in component. Now, you might be wondering what this is if you've never worked with Next.js, but what this means is it is what is called a catch-all route, meaning it is going to be detecting all the routes inside the sign-in, all the dynamic routes, and then it is going to be redirecting them into this component right here, which is the sign-in page. Now, for the sign-up, we're going to do something similar. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this folder. So copy, and then inside my app, I'm going to paste in, and then now we're going to have the sign-in copy, but I'm going to rename this into sign up. And then inside the sign up, I'm going to rename this into sign-up. And then inside here, we don't want the sign-in component. Instead, we want the sign up component. And then I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then let's just shrink that down a bit. Now, once we do that, we can go ahead into our application. And if I go back into localhost 3000 /sign-in, you're going to see that we're still going to be redirected to this. Did you see that? Even though we have created this route. Now, in order to access our own route from inside our application, we need to do a bit more setup. And if you go ahead and say create custom sign up and sign in pages, you'll notice that what we have done is basically this and this. But what we need to do now is we need to go ahead and add environment variables to redirect us into the sign in page and into the sign up page. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, and then inside my .env file, I'm going to paste them below. And then what I'm going to do is, after we sign in, we're going to be redirecting the user into a page that is called dashboard. And then after we sign up again, we're going to be redirecting the user into another page that is called dashboard. So I'm going to save that, and then we're going to create this page. So inside my app folder, I'm going to create a new folder, and this new folder is going to have brackets first of all, and then I'm going to call it dashboard. And then inside my dashboard, I'm going to create a new folder, which is now just going to be called dashboard. Now this in Next.js is called route grouping. And what route groups help us to do is that we can create multiple pages without it actually affecting the URL. So we are not going to have /dashboard/dashboard. Instead, it's going to ignore this part because it is a route group, and then it's only going to go into the /dashboard. So for example, if I go into the /dashboard, I can create a new file that is called search, or rather a new folder that is called search. And we know that inside search, we're going to be adding the functionality to search for a particular user. And that's basically how we're going to do it. So once I do that, then inside my dashboard, I want to create a new file called page.js. And then I'm going to say RFC. And it's not working. Okay, there we go. So RFC, and I'm going to rename this into page. And let me just go ahead and say dashboard page. And then let's copy that. And then inside my search folder, I'm going to create a new file called page.js. Paste this in, and then I'm going to call this search page and save it. There we go. So that is looking nice. Now let's go back into our application right around, where is it? Here. Let's go back into localhost 3000, and then we should be able to see something. So we currently have the default homepage, but if I go into sign-in page, then we should now have our own sign-in page, which is just a bit broken because you'll notice that now the component is to the top left. Now, of course, I want to move it to the top center, or rather to the absolute center. So what I'm going to do is inside my sign-in page, inside my page.js, instead of just returning this, I'm going to cut this out, and then I'm going to return a div with a class of flex and items.center and justify.center with a height of screen. And then I'm going to render my component inside. Now, once I save that, you'll notice that now this is going to come to the center because it is now applying these styles. And then, of course, if I want to do the same thing into the sign up page, because you'll notice that if I go into the sign up page without this redirect, or that is still even working even with the redirect, and that is not what I wanted. So let's go back into localhost. So sign-up. Then you'll notice that our sign up page is still here. So I have to repeat these styles even in the sign up page. Now you can do that, but it defeats the purpose of using Next.js layouts. So in Next.js, every route can have a layout. Every route group, can have a layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transform the sign in and sign up into a route group. And just like I've done in the dashboard, I'm going to create a new folder. And this new folder, I'm going to call it auth inside my brackets because I want it to be a route group. And then I'm going to grab the sign and the sign up and then just drag and drop inside the auth right there so that I can remove these styles from here and save it. And this is going to go back to the top left. And then inside this auth, I can create a new file here called layout.js. Now, what this file is going to do is that if you wanted to apply global styles, for example, then it is going to apply to every route in that particular route group. So the layout is only available in the auth route group. So I'm going to say export default function, and I'm going to call it auth layout. And then I'm going to say return, and I'm going to be returning, let me say return a div. And then inside here, I'm going to be showing my children. And then we're going to destructure children. And then what you're going to notice is if I go ahead and, you know what, let me just save it first of all. Now, when I go ahead and save it and then it reloads, then nothing happens. But if I go inside here and give this a class name of bg rose 400, then you'll notice that the background now has a background color of rose 400, right, from Tailwind. So that therefore means that if I go ahead and say give this a class of flex and item center and justify center with the height of screen, then it's going to place it right there. And even if I go into the sign-in page, then even the sign-in page has the same styles instead of repeating your styles over and over again. So that is looking nice. So that is our custom authentication enabled. Now what we need to do is go back into the homepage, and then we need to style out our homepage. And for our homepage, I'm going to do the following. I'm going to go inside my app folder and inside my globals.css. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, and then I'm going to say I'm going to say that for the body, apply a BG of slate 950, which is going to give it a dark slate background color right there. And then now I'm going to go inside my page.js. So inside my app folder, and then my page.js, which is my homepage, I'm going to remove all of this inside here, and then I'm going to say export default function page, and then I'm going to return, and I'm going to be returning a section here, and the section is going to have an h1 that says GitHub users dashboard, and then the text is going to say I can't remember what I wrote. Let me just have some lorem ipsum because I can't remember what I wrote. So an h1 with a paragraph, and when I save that, then we should be having an h1 somewhere and then the paragraph right there. But the reason we can't see it is because the color is a bit grayed out. So let's go ahead and change that. So inside this section, I'm going to give this a class name of text white, and that is going to make it visible. And then inside the h1, I'm going to say give this a class name, and I'm going to say font dashboard text -4XL, and then save it. Let's see what you have. We have that. And then above this, I want to be able to have a header, which is going to have my logo here and then my sign in and sign up buttons. So what I'm going to do is right above this, and you know what, let me do this. Let me remove this. Let me cut this out. Let me return a fragment first of all, and then let me turn a header on top of this. So header, and then the first one is going to be a button, and it's going to be a button component from ShadCN, and I'm going to show you how you're going to use that, because if you save this, then you're going to have an error on the screen, as you can see right around there, because it says button is not defined. So what I'm going to do is this button is going to say GitHub users dashboard, and then at the end of this, we're going to have a UL with 2 list items, and each of these list items is going to be a button as well. And then this one is going to say sign up, and then the second one is going to say sign in. And you know what, I'm doing it wrongly because they're supposed to be links, so I should place the link component from NextJs. So link into href/sign-in. It's going to say, is it sign in? Sign up. And the text is going to say sign up. And then for this second one, cut this out, and then I'm going to render the link href into sign-in, because we have created those 2 routes, and then close it out. And then the text is going to say sign in, and then make sure to import them. So import this from next link. There we go. Now, if you wanted to add this button component from ShadCN, what you do is, if you go into the documentation, you can just go ahead and find the button component, and you'll notice that this is how the default button looks like. And if you want to take a look at a different one, then if you're using the New York style, for example, there's not really much of a difference between the 2 styles, but as you can see, the New York style is just a bit thinner than the default one, right? Now, in order to add this button into your application, what you need to do is you need to run this command. So npx ShadCN UI latest add button. So you add the component that you want to use, right? So what I'm going to do is Control J, and then inside my second terminal, I'm going to say npx ShadCN UI at latest add button. And what that is going to do is, inside this components folder, which is currently empty, this components folder is created when you initialize ShadCN. So please don't delete it. I forgot to mention it. But once you begin to add components from ShadCN into your application, then they are added inside the components folder. As you can see now, it is not empty, inside a UI folder, and then the button.jsx. So that now we can go ahead, and if you open the button.jsx file, you will find the styles for the button right inside here, and you will even find the variants that we are able to use for each button, and you can see that the variants are defined right here, and we're going to talk about this. So let me go ahead and now do this. If we go ahead and import this button, so if you just go here and say control spacebar, then you can import it from add components UI button, and when I save it, now look at what we have on the screen. We now have, once it reloads, we now have these buttons, right? So that is looking okay. So once we have that, we want these buttons to be styled a bit differently, right? So what I can do is I can pass in a prop here on the button component called variant. Now what the variant prop allows me to do is that I can choose from a couple of variants that are available to us, and others if you want to create them. So the default ones are the default, and then the destructive, the outline, secondary, ghost, and link. Now if I go ahead and say that the default here is going to be, that the variant is going to be the default, what you notice is that nothing is going to change because the default one is obviously the one that is shown on the screen. And if I want to go and say that I want the variant to be secondary, then the button is going to be white depending on the color scheme that you chose. And then if I go and say that I want it to be destructive, then we're going to have a red button here, and so on and so forth. So if I want it to be ghost, then it's going to be, like a ghost, right? And then if I want it to have an outline, then it's going to have an outline. Although in this case, it also has a white background. But if I go and change the body, or rather if I just comment this out, you will notice that now the button has an outline. So depending on the background color that you're using, you can go ahead and change the styles. And by the way, if you want to go ahead and add a custom style here, for example, you can call it custom, you can call it danger if you want, depending on your needs really. But if I go ahead and say custom, I want BG rows 400. If I save that, and then I go back into my application and change this into the custom variant, what you notice is that it is going to apply right there. So ShadCN is very much customizable. In this case, I want it to have a variant of outline, and then I want to go ahead and remove the default background color that it has. So right inside the button, I'm going to go inside the outline, and then for the BG background, I'm going to change this into BG transparent, so that now it doesn't have the background color. And then I want to change the text to white when we're not hovering over it. So I'm going to say text white, and we're going to have that, so that now when you hover over it, then you have that, and then when you're not hovering, we have that. So that's looking okay. And then for the sign up page, I want it to have the same outline. So right here, I'm going to give it a variant, and I'm going to call this a variant of outline for the sign up page right there. And then the sign in page is going to have a variant of secondary. And there we go. So that's looking nice. And then we can style this out. So give this a class name of flex and items of center and justify between, and then give it a padding around of 4 just to push it inwards a bit. And there we go. And then let's go inside this UL, give this a class name of flex item center justify center gap 4, just to increase the gap right there. And then on small screens, I want to go ahead and add flex wrap here. So flex wrap. So just in case that like the screen is too small, then this is going to automatically go into the next line. And then let's begin to style this out. So inside the section, I'm going to say the following. We need, you know what? I also need these buttons on the bottom. So copy this and paste them right below this. And we're going to have that looking nice. And then inside the section, let's go ahead and say text dash center. There we go. And then I'm going to say give it a padding on the Y of 36. So padding on the top and bottom of 36. And we're going to have that. And then I'm going to say space dash Y dash 8, meaning space between the elements of 8, just to increase this spacing. And then change this into a slate color. So inside the paragraph, give this a class name of text slate around, I think 700 should be fine. And we're going to have, okay, that's too dark, let's say 600. And we're going to have that for the text. And then now we want to go ahead and add like the kind of gradient that we had on the top left and then on the bottom right. So the way I'm going to do that is by adding some divs inside here. So I'm going to add a div with the class of bg pink-400, and then I'm going to give it a width of, let me say, 40 and the height of 40, and then give it a blur of about, let me say, 100 pixels, and that should be fine. Oops, okay, let's not do that. The blur should be 100 pixels, and save it, and it should appear somewhere there. There we go. And then I want this to be positioned absolute, so absolute, so that it just goes somewhere there. And then I want this to have a class of relative, and then a max width of about 4xl, and an mx of auto, just to center everything, so that now this doesn't go all the way to the end, right? And then give it a negative z index, because as you can see, it's as though like it's on top of the text. So right here, I'm going to give it a minus z index of 10, just to place it behind the text. And then I'm going to copy this downwards. And then for this one, I'm going to say the z index, this is minus, okay. Just make sure that nothing changes, okay. Minus z index, okay. And then now I want this to be bg blue. And then I want it to go to the right by, let me say, right by 0 and bottom dash 0. And that should bring it around here. There we go. So we have that, and then let's increase the size of this h1. So I'm going to say that for large screens, then the text is going to be 6xl to make it just a bit bigger. There we go, looking nice. Now I can go inside the sign in page, and we have this. But before we sign in, I want to add a check for whether the user is already signed in. And if the user is already signed in, then I want to display the dashboard button here instead. So the way we do that is the following. From Clerk, we can get, we can import out from @clerk /NextJs, and then we can destructure the user ID. So we can say const user ID is equal to auth, like so, and then the user ID is what we're going to be checking. So if a user ID exists, that means that the user is already logged in, and if the user ID does not exist, then the user is not logged in. So we're going to go ahead and add a check here, and we're going to say the following. We're going to say, you know what, let me do it here, and I'm going to say that if we have the user ID, so if user ID is true, then let's return a fragment here that shows that. And then if the user ID is false, meaning there's no user ID, I'm going to remove this. The variant here is going to be secondary, and then this is going to say dashboard, and then the href is going to go inside the dashboard. And I just realized that I think I did this wrongly. So let me see what is wrong here. This should come here. There we go. So if the user ID exists, then wait a minute, I've done it wrongly. This should be, if there's no user ID, then we should render these two buttons, and then if there's a user ID, we should render the dashboard. So save that. Let's just make sure that nothing breaks. Okay, so nothing breaks. There we go, looking nice. And then what we want to do is just the following, the same thing basically. So just copy this and paste it right here. So paste it there, save it, and there we go. So I hope it has reloaded. Just reload to make sure so that you don't have any errors. Nice. So we can go ahead and say sign in, and if I sign in with GitHub, what you'll notice now is, take a look at this. Because it is my first time signing in, then it's going to redirect me into GitHub, or I hope so. Oh, it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't. Instead, it just shows the dashboard page. That's okay. So dashboard page. So what we're going to do now is we need to work on our dashboard page, and let me close all of this down. And actually, to test it out, let's go back into the home page to see whether our button is working. Look at this now. Now our button says dashboard. So our logic is working, right? So let's go back into the dashboard, and then let's begin to build this out. So for the dashboard page, we want to do the following. Inside my dashboard route group, right, I'm going to go inside the dashboard, and then what I want to do is inside the page.js, I want to go ahead and render a fragment, and then inside this fragment, I'm going to render a section, and then the section is going to have an h1 that says dashboard page, And then let's go ahead and style out this h1. So give it a class name. And I'm going to say give it a class name of text-4xl, and then for large screens text-5xl, and text white and font bold. And let's save that. Let's see what we have. So we're going to have that on the screen. Okay, looking nice. And then below this, we're going to go ahead and create a div, and inside this div, this is where we want to go ahead and fetch our data, or rather display our data, display repo data, repository data. Now let's go ahead and do that right away. So let's begin to make our GET request. Now I know there's a way that you can do that using server components, but I don't want to use server components. I'm going to use a client component. So I'm going to say use client on the top. So use client, and then I'm going to import useState and use effect. And actually, I think I should explain the reason why I want to use the client component here is because while I was testing it out using server components, it was crashing my application every single time, and I still don't understand why up to now. I hope we encounter that error in this video. Maybe you can help me to fix it, but for now I used the client component and it seemed to fix it. So I'm going to say const repos, so repos for my repository, and set repos is going to be equal to useState, and by default it's just going to be empty like that. And you know what, actually let me show you something. I'm going to set it to an empty array, right? And you're going to see why that is going to be an issue. Once you do that, then let's go ahead and say async function get repos. So get repos to get the repository data, and then we're going to add a try catch block, and then we're just going to say console.error with the error that we get back. And then in the try block, we're going to say const response is equal to await fetch, and we're going to be fetching from a link here. And then const data is equal to await res.json. And then we're going to say set repos into the data that we get back. And then let's add our use effect. So use effect, and then add in our callback function with an empty dependency array so that it only runs on the initial render. And then let's call our function called get repos. And then now let's go ahead and get this link. So inside here I have this link, so copy that link and just paste it inside. So this is the link, and this link goes into the GitHub users API endpoint, and it searches for a username. So right here is my username, and then you can add a per page flag so that you can get a number of items per page. In this case I only want 10 because I don't want so much data. And then the sort updated is going to sort by the latest repositories that you have. So if you remove this, then it's only going to show you your repositories in alphabetical order. So you can remove it if you want, if that is the functionality that you want. But in this case, I want the most recent repositories first. So that's why I have this inside here. Now I'm going to save that, and save it, and then let me just go ahead and say console log the data, just to see whether we're getting back something on the screen. And you'll notice that if I inspect, then we should be getting back something in the console right here. Reload. There we go. So you get back 10 items. So the get request is running. And by the way, you can ignore this. This is not an error on my side or on your side. This error is because of an extension that I have. So you can safely ignore that. So we need to go ahead and begin to get this data from here and then display it to the user. So the way I'm going to do that is the following. We're going to go ahead and inside here, we're going to go and map over our data. So I'm going to say repos.map, and then for every single repository that I get back, so every single object, I'm calling it a repo. I'm going to go ahead and say that return a card, which you don't have installed yet. So let's go ahead and install that, because this card comes from ShadCN as well. So Control J to open up your terminal, and then just like we did for the button, we're just going to say add card. So npx ShadCN UI at latest add card, and then let that run. And so once it finishes running, if you go ahead into your components, you can see that we have the card.jsx, and it has, you can go through this if you want, but I'm not going to do that. Now inside here we want to return a card, and the card component is going to have a key of repo.id. Now repo.id is coming from this one because this is the unique value across all the repositories. This is how GitHub keeps track of the repositories, I think. And inside here now, let's go ahead and return a card title. So card title is going to have the image from next image. So make sure that you import them on the top, by the way. So image, and I don't have the card, I've not imported it. So right here, just say control spacebar and then import it from components. And then here, control spacebar and import it, and you can see that it's going to be imported on the top. And then once you do that, then the image is going to have a source of repo.avatar_URL, and this is coming from right where is it? Oh, sorry, repo.owner.avatar URL. So the owner of the repository, so repo.owner.avatar URL to get the image of the profile image of the person. And then we're going to give it a width of 80 and a height of 80. And then the alt attribute, in case the image fails to load, then we're going to say repo.name, which is basically the name of the repository right here. And you can give it full name if you want, but it doesn't really matter all that much because this is still the same as this. So I'm going to go ahead and save that just to see what you have on the screen. And you'll notice that we're going to have something on the screen once it reloads. And okay, look at that. So it says invalid source prop. It says GitHub user content is not configured under images. So what this means is that we need to configure the hosts of the image inside our next config.js so that NextJs can display them to the screen. So we're going to go inside our next.config.js file inside here, and then inside our next config, we're going to add an object called images, and then inside images, we're going to add remote patterns, and remote patterns is going to be an array of objects. So inside here, I can add in host name, and host name here is going to be avatars. Let me just copy this. avatars.githubusercontent.com, and then I'm going to save that. And if you are not using NextJS, then you'd have to go ahead and shut down your server and then reload it. But because we are on NextJS, then it automatically restarts the server for us because we have changed something inside the next config.js. So once it reloads, you'll notice that we should not have that error anymore, and we should now be able to see our images on the screen. And there we go. So we have our images. Now the white background here is coming from the card. So inside the card here, the card, where is it? Here, the card has some default styles. And if you go inside your components UI card, you'll notice that the card has a BG of card. Now I want to go ahead and change this because I don't want to use the default background color that it has. So I'm going to say the BG is going to be slate-900. And you'll notice that now this is going to become a darker color right there, much better. And then I also want to change the default border that it has. So the border here, I'm going to say border-slate-800 for the border. And there we go, looking fantastic. Now let's go ahead and do this. You know what? I can add a bit more default styles because I want to add a bit of padding here. So let me say padding all around of 4. And I think that, you know what? Actually, that should be it really. And it's still reloading. There we go. So we have padding all around of 4 so that this pushes inwards just a bit. So let's go back and we can close this. Let's go back inside here, inside our image. Let's give this a class name of rounded-full, and then give it a border of 4, border-4, and border slate-800 to give it a kind of border around the edge, barely visible, but it looks nice. And then inside the div here, let's go ahead and give this a class name of grid and grid, a gap of 4 to separate out these items. Looking fantastic. And you know what? Up to that point, that is looking okay. Now I want to make a detour just a bit because I want to go ahead and add a sidebar here. And the sidebar is going to help us to navigate between our pages. And I also want to add it because I want to add some default styles, and I also want to add a layout.js file for the dashboard page. So what I'm going to do is inside my dashboard. So inside this dashboard folder, right? I'm going to go ahead and go inside my dashboard folder and create a new folder that is called _components. So _components here means that the components inside here are only going to be used in the dashboard, or rather in this route group. So inside here, I'm going to go ahead and say create a sidebar.js, and then I'm going to say RFC, and then it's just going to return sidebar here. Change this to capital S, and then give this a class name of text white, just so that you can see it on the screen. And then what I'm going to do is I want to go inside my dashboard route, and then inside my page.js, I want to go ahead and above this, I want to render the You know what? Not even above that, but above here. I want to render this sidebar from components. That's dash sidebar, if I can speak. And you can see it is imported right there. So save that, and we should see the sidebar right there, right? Now what I want to do is the following. I want to go inside the sidebar. I want to go ahead and change this. I want to go ahead and say change this to a fixed, give it a height of screen that it takes up 100% of the screen, which should now, as you can see, right, it's right there. It is on top of the dashboard page. I want to give it a BG of slate 800. Save it. Let's see. There we go. So there is our sidebar, right? There is our sidebar. And then give it a width of 64. So 64 is going to push it inwards just a bit. And once we have that, then I want to go ahead and add a padding all around of 4 for the sidebar to push this text just a bit inwards. And then I want to begin to render the items of the sidebar. So I'm going to say that this one, the first one, is going to be a button, which comes from components UI button. The variant is going to be secondary because I want it to be white, and the text is just going to say welcome. And then below this, I'm going to have a UL with 2 list items times 2, which are going to be buttons. And then the button is going to take in the variant here of outline. And then the second one is also going to take in the variant of outline. But we're going to change this up, by the way. This is just so that I can get some feedback on the screen. And then the text here is going to say dashboard. And not, it should be a link. So link href / dashboard. There we go. Close it out, and then the text is going to say dashboard. And then here, add in my link. Href is going to be / search, and then the text is going to say search for a user. Rather, let me just say search because that's what I did. And we should be able to import this and then save it, and we should have some text here. So there we go. So welcome dashboard and search. And then finally below this, we're going to have another button which is just for cosmetics, and I'm going to say built by, and then add in my name here. So let me add in my website, tsbsankara.netlify.app, and I can't spell my name, and then the text here is going to say my name. There we go. And this is just for cosmetics really, and it's going to appear right there. And the variant here, I can give it a variant of outline as well. That's still okay. So outline, and there we go. Now what I want to do is inside this div, I want to go ahead and say display this as a flex box, and flex is going to be column so that they are aligned one on top of the other. Flex dash column, and then items dash start and justify dash between, so that now it goes all the way to the end. There we go. And then inside here, inside this one, I'm going to say give this a class name of grid and give it a gap of 4 just to separate it out. There we go. And now we can navigate between the dashboard page and the search page. So the search page doesn't currently have anything. As you can see, it only renders this text, but the dashboard page has the sidebar. Now the sidebar should be a bit darker, I think 900. Yeah, let's make it 900. Now we want this sidebar to be accessible on every other page as well, such as the search page, but you can see that currently it is not visible. Now the way we fix that is, remember how we did for the layout? We are going to go inside the dashboard route group. We're going to create a new file called layout.js, and then we're going to say export default, and this is the dashboard, so I'm going to call it dashboard layout, and then I'm going to say return, and we want to return the the div, what's wrong, export default function. There we go. So we want to go ahead and display the children here, and then destructure children. Now inside here, what you'll notice is if I save that, then nothing should change on the screen, right? Nothing should change. But if I go ahead into the search page, then we're still not showing the sidebar. So what we need to do now is, we don't want the sidebar to be rendered inside the dashboard as it currently is, right? Instead, we want to remove it from here, and then remove its import as well. And then when we go inside our layout.js file, we want to go ahead and display the sidebar here. So we want to get the sidebar to display and then the children to display as well. So that now we're going to have the sidebar, and if I go into the search page, then the search page, come on, there we go. So we also have the sidebar on the search page, as you can see right there. So that is working correctly. But now remember that the sidebar has a width of 64. So the text here needs to go to have either a margin or a padding more than the sidebar so that the text is actually visible. So how we're going to do that is the following, because I don't want to add the defaults, the styles on every single page. For example, if I create another page here, then I'm going to go ahead and grab the children here, and I'm going to give the children a padding left of 72, because 72 is more than 64, which is the width of the sidebar. And when I save that, then the text is going to come inside by 72. Look at that. So that now even if I go into the search page, then now the text for the search page is now here instead of being behind the sidebar. So that is looking nice. That is looking quite nice. And then of course, let me go ahead and add some bit of styling, because I also want the children to have some padding on the top. So let me say padding Y of 10, and then padding on the right of about 4, because padding on the left already exists. So that's looking much better, much better. Now back inside the dashboard page, let's begin to style this out. So let's go inside the dashboard and then the page.js. Now we want to do the following: give the h1 a margin on the bottom of 8, margin bottom of 8 to push away from our cards right there. So we're going to say the following. Let's go ahead and what do we need? We need to display the name of the repository. So inside the card title, I'm going to render card content. So card content, which is also a component from the card that we just installed. So make sure that you import it on top. So card content here. So inside card content, I want to render an h2, and the h2, you know, let me say h4 instead of h2, and we're going to say that this should render the repo.name, which should now show the name of the repository right once it reloads. I mean, reload please. Reloading, will you please? And there we go. So it shows the name of the repository, right? Now let's go ahead and change this style. So give this a class name, and we're going to say text dash white and text dash XL, just to reduce its size a bit. There we go. And then we're going to say capitalize so that the first letter is capitalized. There we go. And then back inside our card title, I'm going to say give this a class name of flex, so that now the text comes here, and then items dash center, and then justify dash start, so that we're going to have that. And in case you're wondering about this space, the space here is because of card content. So the card content component adds some bit of spacing by default. Okay. And then below this, let's go ahead and render what I can go ahead and say we want to render the repo dot full underscore name, so that we just have some bit of content here. And then let's change the styles a bit. So give this a class name of, let's say, text slate 600, text base, or let me say text small to make it a bit smaller, and font dash normal, and that should be looking nice. It keeps on reloading, it's a bit annoying. There we go. And then let's add some bit of spacing between this and this. So I can just go ahead inside I can go inside the card content. I can say give this a class name, and I can say space dash y dash 2, just to add a bit of spacing there. Okay. Now I just noticed something. I placed the paragraph inside the card content. That's why it's a bit the spacing is a bit weird here. So if I cut this out from here and place it outside of the card content, then it should be fine. But it is not because of flex here. And if I change flex to column, then it's going to affect this as well. So let's just have it inside for the moment. Let's just have it inside. Now, once we do that, then we want to split this into two so that we can display more information about the repository on the right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut this entire div. So cut out this entire div, place it inside another div like so, and then right below the closing div we're going to have another div, and then this other div, for now I'm just going to say repository data, repo data, and then the repo data should now appear on the bottom. I mean, once this reloads, please, it should appear somewhere around here. So repo data right there, right? Now obviously I don't want it to appear there, so let me go ahead and render the card component actually. So remember, let me render the card, and then card title, and then here let me go ahead and render repo.name. Actually, that's not going to work because we are not mapping over anything inside this particular div. So I can just say repo data, save that, and it should now appear somewhere. It should appear there. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to go inside this parent div, so the parent div of these two right here, give this a class name, and I'm going to say give this a class name of grid and grid columns -2, and then give them a gap of 8. And not this style should only apply when the screen is on large, so on large screens only. Save that, so that now this should now come here. There we go, looking nice. And then what I want to do is I don't want this to appear on small screens. So what I'm going to do is right inside here, this div, I'm going to give this a class name, and I'm going to say that it is going to be hidden by default. And then on large screens, then we're going to display it as a block element. So that is much better. And you know what, something that I also realized, I want the same behavior for the sidebar. So for the sidebar, by default, let me just do it here, I want it to be hidden by default, right? But then on large screens, I want it to display as a flexbox. So just make those two changes, and then we should be able to continue, right? Looking fantastic. Now let's go ahead and begin to get the repository data for the corresponding one. So the way we do that is we're going to go inside our page, and right inside here, we want to go ahead and go inside our state value. And because we know that our state value is an array, we want to go ahead and get the first item of the array and then display it on the screen. So what we're going to do is the following. Inside card title, I'm going to render my image. The source for this image is going to be repos. Now repos is our state value. I want to go inside the first item, and I want to say dot owner dot avatar underscore URL, because that is the path for the image. And then the width for this one is now going to be 200. The height is also going to be 200. And then the alt attribute, in case the image fails to load, I'm going to say repos, and then get the first value inside here, and then say dot what is the name? It's the name, I mean, surely. And then give this a class name of border-4, border slate-800, and then rounded-full. And now when I save that, then we should be able to see our image right here. Now watch this. We can see that this is clearly working, right? This is the error that I was talking about. Like I don't know why it wasn't working. This is clearly showing the image, right? But look at this. When I reload, then we get an error. It says cannot read properties undefined of reading owner, even though we know that the repos here is clearly defined and we have set it to an empty array. Now if you go ahead and do a bit of research, it's going to tell you that you should add an if statement to check whether repos exists or whether this exists. So if you go ahead and cut this out and say that only when repos exists, that's when you want to render your component. If you save that, then look at this. We still get the same error, right? We still get the same error. And do you know what the problem is? I don't know why, but the problem is because you initialize this to an array. So if you remove this and then save it, then somehow your repository now begins to work. Obviously, because now I mean, this is now no longer an array, so we can't map over it, right? So we're going to say this. So now that we have this error, the way you're going to fix it is the following. We're going to go ahead and insert here. So we're going to grab this entire div all the way up to the bottom. Make sure that you grab the entire div. We're going to cut it out, and we're going to say the following. We're going to add an if statement here, and we're going to say when repos is true, then we want to render our component. or rather our HTML structure, our JSX structure. And when it is false, then we just want to enter an H4 that says loading. So loading dot dot dot. Now, somehow, I don't know how, it fixes it. I mean, I still don't, I don't fully understand the logic behind it, but somehow it fixes it. And to tell you the truth, I was stuck on this for 2 days. If you believe that, I was stuck because I initialized this to be an array for 2 days. Oh my God. Anyway, so that is that. Now we need to go ahead and continue displaying the data here. So we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to say that inside the card title, we have the image here. We're going to render a div, and then inside this div, we're going to have an h2 that says repos 0.name, which is going to render the name of the repository right there, and then change this to white. So give this a class name, text white, and then let's go inside card title, give this a class name, and I'm going to say flex and item center, and then give it a gap of about 4. There we go. And then change this to capitalize. Fantastic. And then below this, we're going to have, I can't remember how I structured it, but I can change up the structure. I mean, the data is all in the API if you want to change up the structure. So I'm going to say that I'm going to add the created art buttons. So right below the card title here, should be fine. Actually not, inside here, still inside here. I'm going to create a div, and then I'm going to create a UL with 2 list items. And the first one is going to say created. So created. And then the second one is going to say updated, because we can get those 2 from the API right around here. So created that and updated that, and then pushed at. So when did you push it to GitHub? And we're going to say the following, that this one is going to say repos 0 dot created underscore art, and then the second one is going to say repos 0 dot updated underscore art. And by the way, this 0 is going to be a dynamic value depending on the card that you click on. So it's going to be dynamic, but for now I'm only kind of like hard coding it inside just so that you can see some kind of data on the screen. And you can see you have created that here and so that's looking okay. And you know what, I don't want this text to be so huge, so we're going to use another component from ShadCN, which is called the card description. So I'm going to say card description, there we go, and I'm going to, inside here we're going to say repos 0 dot created underscore art, and let me just go ahead and save that. Let's see what we have. So we have that is much better looking. So we have the created that date here. Obviously we're going to format this, and then we can copy this down, change this to updated art. So updated art, and then I'm going to grab these 2 and place them inside the div, so that I can go inside this div and give this div a class name of flex and items dash center, and then justify dash start, save it, and we should have that. Obviously you don't want this kind of styling, so what I'm going to do is we need this h2 to be on the same level as this one. So I'm going to cut this div, remove this div, and remove this one, and then push this upwards, so that now the h2, this h2 is going to be on the same level as this card description, so that now they're going to go on the bottom. I mean, does it or not? So we need to cut this out, place it inside another div. Structuring this sometimes can be a bit annoying. Okay, so flex, and then change this to flex column, so that it's going to be one on top of the other. There we go. Fantastic. And then now, in order to format this, we're going to be using a package that is called datefns. So we need to go ahead and open up our terminal once again, and I'm going to say npm install date-fns. And then from datefns, we're going to be using a function that is called format. So we're going to cut this out, and then we're going to say format, and we want to format new date, and then pass in our data from the API, and then we want to format it in the day, or in the format day, month, and year. And then want to do the same thing for this one. So cut this out, and we want to say format, and format new date, pass this in the format day, month, and then year. And then we need to import format from date.fns. So right on top, import format as a named import from date.fns/format. And then when I save that, then this is going to be formatted to the correct date right there. So 13th January was created. Where's the text? Where's the text? The text should be here. So created, and then updated. There we go. Fantastic. And then let's go ahead and add a bit of spacing here. So let's go inside this div. Inside this div, let's go ahead and say space-y-4 to separate out the items inside. Looking fantastic. And then inside this div, I want this and this to be aligned as a flex item. So inside this div, give this a class name of flex items center justify start, and then I'm going to give it a gap of 2, and then a flex of wrap, so that in case they can't fit on the same line, then it automatically goes into the next line. Now, why is this centered? Why are you centered? This is this one. So why is this one centered now? Item center, item start. There we go. So item start, there we go. So created, updated. Is there a gap here? This is gap, not GPA. So gap 2. Okay. And let me say gap 4 just to increase the spacing. And you know what? I can change this text to white. I can add in a span here and give it a text of white, so that now that text is white. We can remove this space. We don't need it. And then we can do the same thing for this one. So updated, cut it out, place it inside a span with a text white class, so that now, there we go. I think that is much better for the viewer. And then once we do that, then let's see, what else do I need from the repository? So we have what? I feel like I'm forgetting to add something in, but that's okay. I mean, it's all available in the repository, in the API. So below this, let's go ahead and add a description. So if a repository has a description, you want to show it below this. So we're going to say the following. We are going to go below the card title. We're going to add a card content. And inside card content, we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to first check for whether a repository has a description, because some of them don't have description. And if I can just find it, let me search for description. So for example, this one has a description of null, but there are others that do have description, such as this one has a description, right? So I'm going to say the following: repos 0.description exists. So if it exists, then we want to render card description component, close it out. And then this is going to say repos 0.description. And then if the description does not exist, then we just want to render null. So let's save it. And then now what you will notice is, come on, this one doesn't have a description, so you can see that it is not showing anything. But if I go ahead and say, I think if I change this to 1, it should show the second description, but it doesn't, but you're going to see this in action in a few. And then once we do that, then I want to add another card content component here, card content, come on, card content. And then inside card content, I want to add a card description, oh my god, description. And then inside card description, I want to go ahead and render repos 0.watchers_count. And then I just want to say the number of watchers. So when I save that, then it should appear there. So this repository currently has 0 watchers, and then I want to show an icon before it. Now, when we installed ShadCN, we got access to an icon library that is called Lucid React. And from Lucid React, we can import an icon that is called iIcon. So iIcon is the icon. and then you import it from Lucid React. Okay, and then save that, and we should be able to see our icon right there. So looking nice, and then we can style it out. So give this a class name of flex and item center and justify start, and then give it a gap of 2 just to separate it out just a bit from the text right there. So 0 watchers, right? And then we want to copy this, copy it 1 and 2, change this into should be fox count, and then the icon that I want to render is antenna, so antenna icon. And then this one is going to be, instead of watchers count, I'm going to render the size, and the size is in kilobytes. And then this one, I just want to render the box icon, so box icon. So make sure that you import the icons on top right there, and then save it, and we should be able to see there. So 0 watchers. Okay, the text should not show watchers, it should now say fox. There we go. So 0 fox, and there we go. Now let's go inside card content here, give this a class name, and I'm going to say that for this class name, it's going to be flex and flex wrap, and then item start, and then justify start, then give it a gap of 4. So that now they're going to be aligned in the following. Looking fantastic, looking nice. Now this component is awfully huge. It is awfully huge, and it can be hard to maintain. So what I want to do is I want to do a bit of refactoring. So this entire side, this entire div, I'm going to grab this entire thing, so the card all the way to the bottom, cut it out, and then I'm going to render a component here that I'm going to create, and I'm going to call it repo data. And then let's go ahead and create it. So inside this components folder, we're going to create repo data.js, and then I'm going to say RFC, and then change this to a capital R. There we go. And then a capital D as well. Oops, capital D, come on. And then we're going to render a fragment, and then inside here we're just going to paste in what we have, and obviously we need to import these components. So let's go back and do a bit of copy pasting. So right on top right here, you can see that we need these two, so we're going to cut them out from here, paste them on top, and then go ahead and copy this. Actually not copy this entire thing, so copy and paste it right, and then save it. And then now we need to import repo data, so import repo data. There we go, so that now we can actually use it inside this component. And then before we save it, because we're going to get an error because this is not accessible, right? So we need to go ahead and destructure this as repos, and then I can go inside here and then pass it in as repos. So repo prop is equal to the repos state value, and I think now when I save it, then we shouldn't have any error on the screen. Right, fantastic. Now you might think that it was useless to refactor that, but I assure you it is not, because we're going to be reusing this component in the search page as well. So once we do that, we want to go ahead and begin to make this dynamic, so that when you click on this or on this, then it actually shows the correct repository. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back on top right here. I'm going to create a new state value, and I'm going to call it value and set value. This is going to be equal to useState. By default, it's going to be 0. Remember 0, all those zeros that we were writing inside here. Now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and pass in the value. So the value prop is equal to the value state value. And then inside repo data, I can destructure value, and then I can go ahead and access all of this. So I'm just going to select this text because I know that we're going to change that value. And then I'm going to say Control D to select every other text that is similar. And then at the end of it, I just want to change this into repos value, meaning the current value of the repository, or not the current value really, but the repository that we click on. So save that, and you'll see that nothing changes on the screen. But now we can go back inside our repos.map right here, and we can get the index as well. And the reason why the index is important is because I want to add some kind of feedback here, where if we are currently on this particular one that we're viewing, then the background color changes to a lighter one. So the way we do that is by going inside here and giving the card a class name, and it's going to be a dynamic class name. So add in your backticks and then your curly brackets again. And we're going to say that when the value is equal to the index, meaning our state value, when this one is equal to the index of the card that we click on, when this evaluates to true, then we want to add, oops, that's not the correct place. So when this evaluates to true, we want to add a class called bg slate 700. And what you'll notice is this. So now this is evaluating to true, meaning we're on the first card. So that means that if I change this into 1, then it should now highlight this one. And you can see that even this changes, right? Now that even the description shows up, and I need to add a bit of space here. So we want this to go back to 0. But then what we want to do is we want that when you click on the card, then it shows up here. So the way we do that is by adding an on click on the card. So on click, and we're going to pass in our inline function, and we're going to say set the value into the index of the card that you click on. And then of course we can give this a cursor of pointer. So cursor dash pointer, if I can type it really, so that now when I click on this, you can see that now it changes. Now it changes, right? Looking fantastic, right? And then let's also add a hover state here. So on hover, the bg slate should be 800. So that now when I hover over it, is it 800 by default? Not hover should be 700, and then this should be 800. So that the active class name is a bit darker. I mean, that is barely visible. Okay, let's just go back to the opposite. Let's go back to the opposite, so that the active one is just a bit darker. Yeah, I think that is better. Now let's go ahead and add a bit of space here. So inside our repo data, let's go, it should be inside the description, give it a class name of margin top 4, just to add a bit of space right there. Now once we do that, let's go ahead and change this title because I've just realized it. So inside our root layout, which is this one right here, sorry, not that one, but the root layout, the main layout file, we can go ahead and change the title here and say GitHub users app dashboard. And then for the description, it can just remain the same. Save it, and then that is going to change the title. So that is looking nice. So this is the default page, right? Now what we need to do is this needs to scroll with us. I just noticed that. So inside the repo data, we can just go inside the card here, give this card a class name of fixed, and you'll notice that now it scrolls with us. Looking nice. So now it scrolls with us. It is looking fantastic. So what we need to do now is we need to go inside the search page, and we need to create the search page. So what we're going to do is the following. Inside the search page, so as we go inside the search page, I want to go inside my main page, so inside the dashboard and inside this page.js, I want to copy everything. So copy, and then inside my search, inside my page.js, I just want to paste all of this in, right? Nothing changes all that much, except that now we are going to go ahead and add in another state value here. So it's going to be called user and set user, and this is going to be equal to useState, and by default is going to be an empty string, and I want this to be dynamic for the search results. So inside here, I want to go ahead and render Brad Traversy here, and then I'm going to change this to be dynamic by adding in my $sign and then my curly brackets, and then setting this to the user, and then changing this to backticks so that it can actually register this as a variable. So we're going to have that, and repo data, and I think this should now say the search page, and I think if I save that, then everything should work for the search page. So loading, let it reload, and it says cannot get this, so I think it's in a different folder. So let's get the correct folder. So repo data components, wait, dot slash dashboard slash components / repo data. That is the correct one. And then now it should now show everything. Now it should work right there. Would you look at that? So it's working as expected, right? Now all we need to do is we just need to go ahead and get the so not get, but rather we need to go ahead and render the form. So what we're going to do is right below the h1, we're going to render a form with no action, and it's going to have an input with a type of text, with a name of search, with an ID of search, and then the placeholder is going to be search for a GitHub username. Change this to be capitalized GitHub username. Set it to required, required, and then set the max length to, let me say, 56. That should be enough. And then what we need to do is we need to change that to a controlled input using these two. So I'm going to say the following. I'm going to say that the value for this is going to be equal to the user, and then on change. So when we type inside, we want to go ahead and access E, and we're going to say set user into e.target.value, which is going to change the current value of this, and it is going to evaluate according to this. This is going to evaluate according to whatever we type in. Now, on the form, we need to add an on-click, or not on-click really, but an on-submit. So on submit, we want to call handle search user function. So below this, we're going to create the function. So function handle search user, and we're going to say e.prevent default, to prevent the default behavior of the form submitting or the form reloading the page when you submit it. And then once we do that, then we want to call our get repos function. So get repos, meaning now this is going to evaluate or rerun with the new value of the user. And we don't need this console log. We can remove it on the dashboard as well right here. We no longer need that console log, so that's looking nice. And let's see, anything else we need to change? We need our submit button. So we're going to render a button here from components UI button. The variant for this one, variant is going to be secondary because I want it to be white, secondary, and this is going to say submit, or the name is say search instead of submit. So search, save it, and this is what we're going to have on the screen. It says that. Okay, now we need to go ahead and style that out. So give this a class name of padding y2, padding x4, text small, bg slate 800, border to border slate 800. Let's see that. 800 is too little. Let's say 900, and border slate 800 can remain. There we go. We can give it a you can say rounded large and width dash half. Make it a bit bigger. There we go. And you know what, this button, let it just remain to be white. And I just noticed that it wasn't white in the demonstration, but it doesn't really matter. If you want to change it, you can just go ahead and change this to default, if you want to change it. But I think I'm going to have it to be white, so secondary. And then inside the form, let's give this form a class name of margin bottom of 8, push it away from the results. Okay, and then let's give it a gap here. So form, let's say flex gap 2, flex gap dash 2. Come on, there we go, just to add a bit of spacing here. And the text should now be white, so text white. There we go, looking fantastic. Now let's go ahead and try this out. If I go ahead and search for Florine pop 17, we should be able to search, and there we go. So it is actually searching. If we go ahead and search for Cassidy, how do you spell the name? Cassidy Williams, then there we go, it shows the correct one. And you can go ahead and search and search and search. And you know what, I just noticed what I forgot. And something else that I've realized, see how if you have a long description, then it seems as though that the card stretches out, and then for a short one it becomes smaller. Let's fix that. The way we do that is we're going to go inside the repo data, and you know what, not even inside the repo data really, and you know what, inside the repo data, let's give it a max width dash 600 pixels. That should fix it. Let's see. Once it reloads, really, I don't know why it keeps on reloading. There we go. So now all of them have a fixed really, Not all of them really. Come on. Let me say width dash 600 pixels. That should now do it. Yes. Now all of them have a fixed width. So that is much better. Now, something that I want to do for mobile and something that I did not demonstrate, and by the way, I need to fix this by the way. So let's begin by fixing this. I want to add some active class names. So what we're going to do is go back into, close all of these down. There are too many now. So inside my dashboard, inside my page.js, where we have, where is it? Wrong page. Where is it? Am I being confused by my own? Where do I have, we can remove this without using it. Where do I have my header? Where is the header? Oh, sorry, it's the sidebar. It's the sidebar. I'm actually searching for header when I call it sidebar. So we have these two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an array of objects for these two. So I'm going to say export, not export, but const links is equal to an array of objects. And the first one is going to be a title of dashboard with an href going into /dashboard. And then the second one is going to have a title of title. Really, I can't type. The title is going to be what? Search. And then the href is going to into /search. And then I'm going to create a third one here that I talked about. Is going to be user profile. And then the href is going to be /user dash profile. And we're going to create this. Now look at this. Instead of just rendering this, I'm going to cut this out, the first one, and then I'm going to say links.map. And then for every link, I'm also going to get the index. And then I'm going to be returning this list item. So cut this out inside here. Okay. And then the variant, we're going to change that in a moment. But the text is going to say link.title. And then for the href is going to be link.href. Okay. And then the key here is going to be index. Now, when I save that, then we should have our 3 links showing right there. So now we have 3 links, right? Now what we need to do is, because we can visit them, we can go into the links, but this one doesn't yet exist. So we're going to get a 404 page, as you can see. So I'm going to go back, and then inside our dashboard page, what I'm going to do is the following. Inside the sidebar, I am going to change this into a client component because we want to use a hook. So use client, and from next navigation, we can import a hook called use path name from next navigation, and from there we can get the path name. So const path name is equal to use path name. And then what we're going to do here for the variant, where is it? Here, we're going to cut this out, and we're going to say the following. The variant is going to be a dynamic value, and we're going to say that when the path name is equal to the link.href, when this evaluates to true, then we want the when this evaluates to true, then we want the variant to be secondary, meaning we want a white button. Otherwise, we want the outline button. So save that, and what you'll notice is now this should turn white. Reload. There we go. So we are currently on the dashboard page, and then when we go into the search page, then this turns white, and there we go. So our navigation is working correctly. Now let's go ahead and create the user profile page, and the way we do that is we just do the following. Now, just like we did for our auth, we're going to go ahead and create a new folder called user-profile, and then inside user profile, create another new folder with 2 square brackets, so 1 2 1 2. Oops, too many. And then we're going to spread user-profile, meaning the catch-all route. And then inside here, we're going to say page.js. And then inside page.js, I'm just going to say export. And I've forgotten how you actually do that because there's a specific way that you do it. So let me just go ahead and say, where is it? Can't find it. Clerk components. Let's see. User profile right here. User profile. Loading. So it says we need to create a user profile folder and then spread user profile and then page.tsx or js, and then we can just copy this, we can just paste it inside here. So that's how you use it. And by the way, this path should match the path that you want your button inside here to link to. So if the path doesn't match, then you're going to get an error. So when you save that, you can now visit user profile, and you'll notice that for user profile, we now have, once it loads in sometime today, please load in. Then notice that we have that. So that's looking okay. Now the reason why we have this, like I mean, I can zoom out if you have a bigger screen, but you don't want that to happen, right? So what you can do is the following. And I wonder why my sidebar is not showing. So my sidebar is not showing. And oh, you know what? It's because I'm actually doing this in the wrong file, in the wrong thing. The user profile should be inside the dashboard. So it should only be visible when someone is logged in. So we need to just drag and drop this inside the dashboard. So drag and drop it, and then now it should be fine. Let's see, let's save that. I hope it has reloaded. There we go. So we now have our user profile right there. So that is much better. That is much better. Now what I want to do for mobile is the following. ShadCN has another what's it called, another component that is called sheet. And see what I just noticed, I don't want this padding left on mobile. So what we can do is inside our layout here, we can say that this should only apply to large screens, and then on small screens I want the padding X to be 4 to push things inwards. So that we're going to have that. There we go. Now ShadCN has a component here that is called sheet. Let me just get it right there. And what sheet does is, if you click on this, it is interactive. It shows like a sidebar, kind of like a sidebar that has more information. So I want on mobile that when I click on an element here, then it actually draws out the sheet and then shows more information about that particular repository that you're viewing. So basically the repo data component that we created, except now that it uses ShadCN. So what we're going to do is the following. Control J to open up our terminal, and npx ShadCN-UI at latest add sheet, and then as that is adding in, we are going to close this and close this and close this and close this and this one. And what we're going to do is I might have to create a new component because this is going to become quite huge. That is let's see, how do I want to do that? Let's set that to mobile first of all. Let's set it to the iPhone 12 390. That's okay. So let's go into ShadCN. Let's go ahead and import all this. So import it, and we need it to show where. Why can't I think of this? I want it to show when you click on this. So I'm going to go ahead inside, or rather right below this closing, I'm going to add, and I'm going to say mobile nav, and I'm going to create a div here. And this div, let me just copy this. And you know what? I should render a component just to make it easier. I should extract it, and I'm going to call this mobile what should I call it? Mobile sheet. Let me just call it that because I can't think of a better name. Let's go ahead and create that new file inside our components. So mobile sheet.js, and then RFC inside here. Change this to capital M, and then save it. So mobile sheet, and then on top of this, let's go ahead and import the ShadCN components. And then what we need to do is we need a sheet trigger. So, oh my god, this is such a lot of overhead. This is such a lot of overhead, because now we need to go and disable a few things. So look at what we're going to do. We're going to do the following. For the card right here, I'm going to give it a class name, and I'm going to say that it is going to be hidden by default, but on large screens it's going to be a block element. The reason for that is because below the card I want to go ahead and render this sheet that I've just copied, and you know what, cut this out, cut this entire thing out, and then render fragments that we don't have that error. So that now the sheet trigger is the button that is going to open up our sheet, right? And then the content is going to be our repo data. How do we do that? Let's see. The content, sheet header, sheet title. Let's go ahead and grab this. Let's render repo data inside here. Repo data, and then set the repos is equal to repos, and the value is equal to value. And then the sheet trigger. The sheet trigger should be this entire card. Should be this entire card. Copy and paste it inside here. But with the exception of this, we don't need these classes. We don't need, it should be the opposite. So it is blocked by default, but on large screens it is hidden. So save that. Do we have any errors? Let's see. Click on this. It says what? What does it say? Sheet is not defined. Did I know? Oh, no. Imported it in the wrong place. So copy and paste it on top, right around here. Save it. Let's see loading. Now if I mobile, come on, really, we don't need this. Save it. Let's see. Open up. So if I click on this, hopefully, okay, there we go. So it is technically working. The reason why it's going outside is because of the fixed width, remember, and also because of the styles that we applied. So what we need to do, and look at this. This is how the sheet works in ShadCN. It's quite nice. We can increase the width a bit. So we can go ahead inside the sheet right here. I don't know whether it's inside the sheet or what. Does this have props? No. I think I can give it a class name, and I can say width of width -9/12. I think that should do it. No, because this should not be here. It should be on the sheet content. Right? That should be it. It still doesn't. Anyway, we're going to deal with that in a moment. Now we just need to restructure how this looks on mobile. So that therefore means that we're going to go inside repo data, and then we're going to say that this is going to apply for large screens only, for the fixed width 600, and then this should also apply for large screens, by the way. So large screens fixed, right? There you go. You can see that it is already looking nicer. Now this text that goes to the right is because of this part right here. So we need to go ahead and say flex wrap, which is going to bring it downwards. There we go. And then item center and justify -center. But on large screens, we're going to say justify start. So this is going to bring it right there. And then I can say text-center. And then for large screens, I can say text-left. Bring it to the center. It doesn't, but why? Why doesn't it? Come on. Think about this. Oh, it's because of this. Okay, it's not because of that. It is because of this. So this should apply for large screens, and then for the small screens, I can say item center, and then justify start should apply for large screens. And for small screens, I can say justify center. Let's see. There we go. And then this should apply the same thing. So item center, and then this should apply for large screens, but for small screens, justify center. There we go. Okay, now I need this background color to persist, and I don't need this padding. So we can go inside, right? Where is it? Oh, the padding is on the card. Oh, so I might have messed myself. because I added padding on the card right around, where's the components here? On the card, I added padding. Now I can't remove this padding without messing up with everything else. Okay. So what that would mean is I should probably not use a card inside here, but the card is the repo data, and the repo data is useful for large screens. Oh my goodness. See the kind of overhead now that I've just added for myself. Anyways, let's change the sheet into a white color. So let's go ahead and change the sheet. Where is the sheet? Here. I think I can change the class name into BG Slate 900. Can it change? It doesn't change. So it doesn't change. Where do you change the color of the sheet? It should be somewhere. It should be somewhere in the components, and then sheet. The sheet should be where is it? BG background. So BG Slate 900. That should be the sheet. Open it up. There we go. There we go. Looking fantastic. And I don't need that border. Where's the border? This is padding 6. Shadow is in. Data state open. Can't find the border. Oh, it's right here because it opens on the side. Oh, sorry. Side, top, bottom, left, right. It is opening on the right. So the border left here. So border dash left, border dash slate dash 800 to remove that border. There we go. That is much better. Much better. Fantastic. So now all you need to do is just go ahead and copy what? Copy this part. Copy this entire thing and paste it in the search page. So close this search page here, copy and paste it here inside the card. That should be it. And we need to import the sheet as well. So import this and paste it on top right here. We can remove this since we're not using it. Come on. And we're not using this either, or this either. Oh, okay. So save it, and we should do the same thing here. Remove this because we're not using it. Save it, and let's go ahead and navigate into the. Oh, you know what? I just realized mobile doesn't have navigation. Okay. We're going to fix that. So the search page is here. Navigate into the search page. Let's inspect. Let's see whether everything is working. So everything is not working because this should not do that. So I styled it out a bit differently. Why did I do this to myself? The video was going on very well. Why did I do it? Let's see. Okay. So it's only around here. Okay, you know what? So what's happening here is this part. So we need this to come on top on small screens. So what you can do there is we can go inside the, what's it called? Let me make sure that nothing is wrong here. Okay, nothing is wrong on large screens. But wait, what? Okay, so I reset some styles without resetting them back. So that should be inside repo data. So I did something. So flex wrap, I think it's this one. So on large screens, then the flex should no wrap. Flex no wrap should now come here. Come on, there we go. That fixes that. But what was I doing? I was doing something called inspect, and I wanted to change this to come on top. So the way we do that is we go inside, that is not repo data, but inside the search page, we need the default card. So the default card right here, we need to go ahead and say, let me get it. So card title, it should be this one. So flex, this should now say flex column, flex dash column, and then flat screens, flex dash row. Save it. We should have nothing changes. Why? So nothing changes here, but why? Why don't you change? So inside the search, am I doing, let me get the correct thing. Card content, repo name, full name. Repo name, full name. So flex call. Item center justifies center. Is that? Will you please reload? Reload, please. Nothing happens. Let's change this back to justify start. And come on. Why isn't none of this working now? Let me do this. Let's do this. Let me cut this out. Let me change this to a grid. What happens? Okay, so grid. Grid. So grid columns 1. Grid columns 1. What happens? Nothing happens. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. So it's working on large screens but not on mobile? What did I do? So let me go ahead and paste in these classes back, save that, and let me test it out. Okay, so flex column. So let's remove flex row from here. Now it should outline. Yes, but why is it not working the same way on what? Okay, no, this is now annoying. This is now annoying because these classes are just messing with my head. They're just messing with my head. Item center justifies center. And then what? What did I do? Is it because of this class? I've experienced this class to have some bit of issues. But no, why? Justify start. I really can't seem to figure this out. That screens flex column, flex row. That is quite curious. I wanted this image to come on top. I can't believe Flexbox is doing that, you know. Can't believe Flexbox is doing that. Okay, so now that I've failed to figure that out, let's add the mobile navbar. So for the mobile navbar, we're going to do something similar to what we've done in the sheet trigger here. So I'm going to say the following. I am going to say that, you know what, let me just copy this part. Copy this sheet all the way to the bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and say, inside the dashboard, inside components, you know what, let me rename this to mobile navbar. So mobile nav, renaming. And then once it renames, then we can rename this into mobile nav, and then we can return a fragment and paste this in. But we don't want to return this entire, we don't want to return the repo data. The sheet trigger is going to be a button, so we can remove this card. It is going to be a menu icon. Is it menu icon? Yes, menu icon is going to be the sheet trigger. And then for the sheet header, we want to go into our sidebar. Remember our sidebar? And then we're just going to go ahead and copy, you know what? just copy this part first of all. I think I'm going to hard code them in. So let me just copy this URL inside our navbar, paste this in, and then we don't want the links. We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need the key. And the path name here, we don't really need that. So the default variant can just be outline. So variant is equal to outline. Really, the link here is going to be going into / dashboard, and then the text is going to say dashboard, and then we're going to save that. And then now the navbar should appear somewhere. Oh wait, I'm not rendering it, right? I'm not rendering it anywhere. Now inside here, I'm going to return a div with a class name, and I'm going to say on large screens it's going to be hidden, so that this doesn't show on large screens. But then I'm going to go inside my layout, because I want inside my layout, which is with this layout. Oh my god, could you close this manifest? This one. So inside here, I want to go ahead and render my what's it called, mobile nav, render it, so that now it should appear somewhere. Can't see it. Should appear somewhere. Reload. Button is not defined. So inside mobile nav, button is not defined. Let's import it, and it should now appear somewhere once it reloads. So oh my god, link is not defined. Really? Import it from next link, and then now reload again, and now our menu icon should be somewhere. It is right here. See where the cursor changes to a pointer? This is the menu icon. And would you look at that? So our dashboard, our thingy is working, but I want this sheet to now come from the right. So what I'm going to do is, I think I can add a side here. Can I? Is it here or on the sheet content? I can add a prop called side, and I want it to come from the left. Let's save that. Let's see. There you go. So it now comes from the left. Now let's go ahead and make that button actually seeable, and not seeable, seeable really, instead of visible. So let's go, where's my menu icon here? Let's place it inside a button component. Give this a class name of outline. Say not a class name, really, a variant of outline. And there you go. So we have that for our menu button. And then of course I want this to come on the right, so I can go inside here. I think I can give this a class name, can I? Or float right. It's going to bring it to the right. Does it work? No, it doesn't work because it's a component. So let me not do that. Let's go ahead and go let's do this. Grab this. Let's say the div is going to have a class of float right. Paste it in, and then give it a padding on the top of 4, a padding on the right of 4, so that it is not so close to the edges. I mean, really? Float right. That's not working. Okay, let's use flexbox. Flex items end, justify end. Now come here. Oh my god, it's not listening to me. Now what are these errors? Really, I don't want to deal with those errors. Okay, so flex is not working. So let's say absolute position, bring it to the right by 4, bring it to the top by 4. Now come here. Will you really? There we go. Okay, this is a bit inward, so I can say right 0. Is it really? Right 0 brings it right 0. I say right 0 and then I don't type it in. So right 0. Okay, there we go. And then on large screens it's not visible. So looking nice. Now how do we deploy this? We go ahead and we shut this down, and we shut this down, and this one, and this one, and yeah, this one as well, and we close this one as well, and then we go ahead and open up GitHub, and we also open up Vercel, and then we can go ahead and Control J and close our terminal. And by the way, in case you're wondering, it is now currently 11:42 in the night, so that's why I'm a bit off, because you know, tired. So once we do that, let's go ahead and close all of that, and then JS config. We need to go ahead and add a base URL here and set it to dot, so that we don't get that error. I don't know why it does that, but you know. And then let's go ahead inside Vercel. Once you log in, you want to go ahead and add a new project. And you know what? I need to commit it to GitHub first of all. So let's go into GitHub. Let's create a new repository. And I'm going to call it NextJs-GitHub-users. And NextJs GitHub users, okay. Create repository. And then let's copy this link. Let's go ahead and say the following. Let's say git add components, and git commit. We'll say ShadCN components, and git add dot git ignore git commit, and I'm going to say git ignore, or the update git ignore. So update git ignore, and then git add components dot json, and git commit, and I'm going to say json config for ShadCN components, close it out, and then git add middleware.ts, git commit, and I'm going to say middleware what routes, and then git add next.config.js, git commit, and I'm going to say add GitHub hostname, and then git add package star, and git commit, and I'm going to say install dependencies, and then git add tailwind.config.js, and git commit. I'm going to say tailwind config, go, and then let's say git add js config.json, and git commit, and I'm going to call this js config. Okay, and then lib, we can go ahead and say git add lib, git commit, and I'm going to say lib. And then for the app, I'm going to say cd into my app, and then git add auth, and git add auth, because that is the name. Really? Okay, let me say this, git add globals.css, git commit, and I'm going to say add background body, and then git add layout.js, git commit add Clerk provider, and then git add page.js, and git commit -m homepage. There we go. And then git let me say, I don't know why that is not working, so let me go inside my git lens here, and then let's say this is going to be the layout, this is auth, this is auth, this is there any other auth? Nope. So I'm gonna say git auth, that is going to be auth, commit, and then dashboard, this is dashboard. Let's say commit all. Okay, cancel. Let me say dashboard. Oh my god, dashboard commit. Yes. Okay, let's see, is there anything left? Nothing. Okay, so let's say git remote add origin, paste in our link, git branch -m main git push -u region main. Fantastic. And then wait for that to push. There we go. Reload this, and you should see our application right there, looking fantastic. So now let's go into Vercel. Let's go ahead and say, actually it's right here, so this one. So import it, and this can be left by default. The build settings can be left, but the environment variables, we need to go ahead and copy our .env file. So just copy the entire .env file and then paste it on the first input here. So paste it in, and it's going to automatically paste in your what's it called, your environment variables, and then you can say deploy, and then let's wait for that to deploy. And there we go. So once it deploys, you can say that this is our application, and I can say continue to dashboard. And inside my dashboard, I think inside my settings should be it. I do not, this link can work. So NextJs, I wanted to change the domain, the name, but I think the default one can work. So this one right here for production. So if I visit this link, then it should take me into my application, and we have our application right there. And then if I click on sign in, then it takes me to my sign in page. If I say continue with GitHub, then now it should, oh, there we go. So it's only when you have deployed, that's when it does this. So it asks you to authorize the application, and by default it is Clerk because you know, I haven't pushed it to production. But if I say authorize Clerk, then it's going to authorize, and then it's going to redirect me back to my application, which I have right inside here, which is dashboard, and you can see that it is working nice. And if I go into the search page, then I can search for, this is currently Brad Traversy. I can search for, who else do I know on GitHub? This is really embarrassing. Let me just search for Florin. So if I search for him, then you can see that we have his profile, and then I can go into my user profile to search for my own profile. So not to search for my own profile, but to view and manage my own profile. And then back inside the dashboard, if I shrink this down to mobile, then you can see we have everything working correctly. And you know what? I forgot to add the other links. Oh my goodness. I forgot to add the other links. So let's just do that very quickly. Dashboard, dashboard, components, mobile nav. So we have the dashboard, copy, paste. This should now go into search. The text should say search. This should say, what is it? User profile, user dash profile. This should now say user profile. And then let's go ahead and commit this. So add this and say add mobile, or add links. Commit, and then push it. And once it pushes, then Vercel is automatically going to trigger a redeploy, so that now the links are going to be visible. And so yeah, and actually, you know what, before we close, if we go back into our Clerk dashboard and we go into our application, so load in, come on, load in. Wait, what? Why did it log me out? So we have the GitHub users here. So if you go into our application, you can actually go into the users, and it actually shows you how many users you have, and it is actually quite nice. So if more people log in, you'll be able to see them right here. So that is quite nice, and it is a very interesting project. So it has been a long project, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned how to authenticate your app using Clerk, and how you can work with NextJs and the features of NextJs. So if you enjoyed it, then please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.